Toronto Raptors must stay away from this because Bruce Brown is a guy that has a massive trade market right now. We've heard teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, the Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets. Half the entire NBA is interested in acquiring Bruce Brown, but now another team has been added to that list in the Brooklyn Nets. So we're going to break down the latest report that reveals what the Brooklyn Nets would potentially be willing to give up to the Toronto Raptors and why the Toronto Raptors should stay away from trading with that team because of some stuff that's been going around about their asking prices and potential offers. So lots of stuff to dive into in this video, but before we do, folks, again, we want to keep you up to date with all the latest Toronto Raptors news, and the trade deadline is just around the corner, and over 58% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel just yet. So if you want to stay up to date with everything regarding this Toronto Raptors team, definitely hit that subscribe button. But let's dive into this video because, again, looking at last night's game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, Bruce Brown is the odd man out on this group. And regardless, if you're on Team Tank and you want to see this team bottom out, completely just tank for our draft pick and, embrace that Toronto Tank 2024, or if you are of the mindset, hey, we got Pirtle back, RJ Barrett's been really good. Scotty Barnes is emerging and taking that leap, taking that step, despite his poor performance late in last night's game. If you think we should make a push for the play and try to win and not, lose a bunch of games just to get an incrementally higher chance at keeping our draft pick in a weaker year's draft this year, I mean, regardless of what side of the fence you are, Bruce Brown should be dealt. He should be gone. He should be shipped away because he's not fitting with our group right now. Apparently, the Raptors can get what they're asking for out there on the open market, and teams are, willing to give up that pick in order to bring in a guy that was a key piece, a key rotational piece on a championship-winning squad last season. So, what's the latest report, and what did the Toronto Raptors have to stay away from? Well, basically, Jake Fisher on Mark Stein's podcast yesterday revealed a new suitor for Bruce Brown, on the trade block, on the trade mill, and that is the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the Brooklyn Nets obviously are, especially during the mid-2010s, a big rival for the Toronto Raptors. A team, I guess earlier in that as well, stole away Vince Carter, faced them in the playoffs a couple times, or at least in the bubble season, but the real heartbreaking one was in 2014. They're my least favorite franchise. No matter how bad they get, how good they get, whatever players they are, I will always have a deep distaste for the Brooklyn Nets. Absolutely hate that franchise. It's the team traumatized me as a child, stealing away Vince and all of that type of stuff. So I will never be rooting for the Brooklyn Nets. But the Brooklyn Nets, that's not the reason why we shouldn't deal away for Bruce Brown to Brooklyn, to make that little reunion and things like that, because the Brooklyn Nets are in a weird spot right now. They're losing a lot of games, but they've taken the approach to make some ridiculous asking prices, out there for any of their trade sort of scenarios. And inside this podcast as well from Jake Fisher, we've heard that the Brooklyn Nets will be very hesitant to give up first-round draft pick compensation. They don't have a lot. They have the Suns picks, but they don't really have any of theirs. They're gone to the Houston Rockets for the foreseeable future, so they'd be hesitant to do that. But the main reason is because, and I'm not trying to be hypocritical, I'm not trying to criticize the Brooklyn Nets front office for making these sort of asks, because as a Toronto Raptors fan, a guy that's been rooting for Masai Ujiri and his sort of trade negotiation strategies over recent years, it pays sometimes to be stubborn and to wait to get that perfect deal, to get that finesse, to get all those types of things in potential trade packages. We saw that with the OG Anunoby deal where the Raptors got a massive haul for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett and an elite second round pick, the Detroit Pistons second round pick for OG, paid to sort of hold the rope on an OG trade there. Less so for Pascal Siakam, but, I respect the strategy from the Brooklyn Nets, but they have been making some ridiculous sort of evaluations of their own players on the open trade market. Firstly, with, obviously Bruce Brown's a solid player. We'll discuss him after, but the Brooklyn Nets reportedly rejected an offer for 2 first-round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith is a great basketball player. In terms of being a 3-and-D guy, spaces the floor, does all those types of things, but he is a very average sort of 3-and-D dude. He's not the level of a OG Anunoby or one of these guys that, one of the top upper echelon defenders in the entire NBA, where he's making all defense and things like that, where he's able to create do things on the offensive end. He's a spot-up shooter. He plays defense. Yes, those types of guys are very valuable for any specific team, but to decline 2 first-round picks is pretty wild for Dorian Finney-Smith, especially when your team has no real use for him, given the fact that they've really been struggling as of late. I guess they don't have their draft picks, so it makes sense to hold on to some of their decent players, but that Brooklyn Nets squad has looked like a complete mess here now at this point. We've heard that they might not be able to keep Nick Claxton either, so, unless, again, Nick Claxton get offered for Bruce Brown, then you maybe make that deal happen with the Brooklyn Nets, but, that's our asking price for Dorian Finney-Smith there. And then also, another sort of update is the Brooklyn Nets reportedly received multiple offers of 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. 2 league sources have said the Nets have claimed multiple offers of 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, but I'm pretty skeptical on that front. So again, that's sort of the offers that's come out. That's what league sources are saying. One, it might be 5 first with swaps, heavily protected picks, and the offers the 5 first. But why share that and continue to be interested in Mikal Bridges? Regardless of that's true or not, the sources are saying they declined that, despite the fact the Nets have been struggling. But the real juicy one out of this is the Nets would say no to a potential Mikal Bridges trade to the Rockets, even if it included their draft picks. So again, they'd be tanking, they get all their picks back and stuff, and Jalen Green. Alongside Jalen Green, who is I know he's been a bit inconsistent, he's younger, he's all these types of things, people want to criticize him. He has oodles of potential out there, and to go on a Brooklyn Nets team where he can really flourish and, show off what he can do and get all their first round picks back, Mikal Bridges, I get Mikal Bridges is good, but he looks depressed down there playing for the Brooklyn Nets. If they're unwilling to accept a multiple first-round pick of their own draft picks and a Jalen Green for Mikal Bridges, I get valuing your guys high, I get all that type of stuff, but given the situation that they're at, it seems a little bit wild. So again, for Bruce Brown, who this season's averaging 12 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, defensive stats are pretty solid. You have a team option on him next year, only 27 years old, and the Nets, in this Jake Fisher podcast, Fisher said that the Nets are hesitant to give up a first. They're worried about him potentially bolting, even though the team does have a team option on his contract for next season. I just would stay away. I'd stay away from the Brooklyn Nets. So far, out of all the teams that have been rumored for Bruce Brown, I don't think the Lakers have that particular assets that we'd be interested in. Again, 2029 first from LA, not that intrigued. LA just always seems to find a way to make their team decent. They had that stretch there during the 2010s, which was really bad, but I'm not that interested. 2029 first from LA, even though I wouldn't be super disappointed, because again, that could be a trade asset in the future. I'm not that interested in LA's package. The Knicks, giving up Quentin Grimes and maybe a first, intrigues me. Maybe get Hardenstein, you get something along those lines. So the Knicks are a team that intrigues me. The Dallas Mavericks have some younger players. We're not getting lively, but maybe a Green and a pick, or they're an unpredictable team as well with Kyrie, who's been in and out of the lineups in recent years, dealt with some injuries. Luka could potentially leave. All of these types of things. Maybe a future Dallas Mavericks pick could be cooler. There's a lot of potential options. The Toronto Raptors could go along these lines. The Bucks have also been a team that's rumored. They don't really have any draft capital, so not that intrigued by that team there. I don't know, but my opinion is stay away from the Brooklyn Nets. They're a team that's looking to finesse other squads, and I guess every team is sort of that approach, of that mindset. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys are the best to make it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.